How would you say that you should all be smarter, but don't know how to could be smarter? We don't know anything about how to improve intelligence, and I suppose we don't really know anything about how to improve the industriousness. But I can tell you that people who are industrious come up with a strategy for solving the problem that's ahead of them. You want to know something about yourself, sit on your bed one night and say to yourself, you got to mean this, like, you got to be this right, this no game. This was one thing I'm doing wrong, that I know I'm doing wrong, not a good fish. Not a good fish. You may tell that you will answer, and it won't be one you want, but it will be a necessary one. In this video, we will explore some of his best kept secrets for maximizing focus and achieving long-term success, so that you can study smarter, not harder. Now, I often tell people to fix the thing you repeat every day. Because we will tend to think doing the trivial, right? You get up, you brush your teeth, you have your breakfast, you have your routines that you go through every day, where those probably constitute 50% of your life. And people think, well, they're mundane and got to pay attention to them. That's not like that's exactly wrong. The thing you do every day, that's some of the most important thing you do, hands down. All you have to do is do the arithmetic. We make an average of 35,000 decisions every single day. We can eventually lead to decision fatigue, a state of mental overload that can impede a person's ability to continue making decisions. As psychiatrist Dr. Lisa Mann explained, the more decisions you have to make, the more fatigue you develop and the more difficult it can become. This mental exhaustion can lead to poor choices, procrastination, or even to a tendency to avoid decisions altogether. One effective way to reduce decision fatigue is by simplifying daily routine, such as planning meal in advance, maintaining a consistent wardrobe, or establishing school habit. Additionally, breaking down complex choices into smaller, measurable steps can make decision making feel less overwhelming, helping individuals conserve mental energy for more important tasks. I can tell you that people who are ambitious come up with a strategy for solving the problem doesn't handle them, and then they do whatever they can do, stick to the strategy and solve. For example, if you sat down today or tomorrow for a couple hours or 3 hours and you fill in a Google Calendar, whatever you happen to use with a strategy for studying, and a list of when all your assignments are due and all of that, and when you're going to sit down and study, then you won't be in a position where you have to cram for 10 hours a day hopelessly right before an important exam. It is also a very effective way of studying, by the way. I mean, for those people who cram for 10 hours, say they are studying for 10 hours, but they already are, because I can't study for 10 hours. I don't have the power of concentration that would enable me to do that for a prolonged period of time. I can manage about 3 hours of intense intellectual activity before I'm ready then. A study published in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience found that by learning, where study sessions are spread out over time, can be trusted as effective as smart learning. This approach enhances memory retention and recall by encoding information into long-term memory. Research consistently shows that students who space out their studying perform better on an assessment taken weeks later compared to those who cram. In addition to space learning, getting enough sleep plays a crucial role in learning and memory. According to the Sleep Foundation, sleep deprivation hinders the brain's ability to create new pathways for recently learned information, making it harder to retain in knowledge. And it's also a case that if you study in the sleep and then study in the sleep and then study in the sleep and you space out, then you're much more likely to remember. And also much more likely to that you much more likely to remember if you try to recall the material and so highlighting that sort of thing. It's a very useful but reading, closing the book, summarizing what you read without opening that book. That's useful. And the reason for that is that you are practicing remembering, and that's what you have to practice. If you're practicing memorization, you have to practice remembering. You just go over the thing over and over. That will help you with recognition memory, but some it will won't help you with recall memory. The best thing you can do is read and write every day. Couple hours the every day where write about things you might want to see if you can discover what you believe to be true. Another ability of foundation and it's unbelievably practical. Research published by Jackson Whitby was that with Brigham Young University explore how reading literary fiction enhances a person's ability to understand others, a skill known as the theory of mind. This refers to the human capacity to recognize that others have beliefs and desires different from your own. In the study, participants were divided into groups and assigned different reading materials. Afterward, they took a test measuring their ability to perceive others' emotions. The results showed that those who read literary fiction scored significantly higher than those who did not read at all. So what seemed to happen in the story and they distill. So they watch people watch people, and then they tell story about what they see, but they leave a lot of those story, everything that's boring, hopefully. And then my more story about starting things and get sort of I read it, and then maybe a great guy come along and write something really interesting. Profound character transformations, and then you will say, well, that's fiction, and then we say that's not true because it's fiction, and then maybe that's not right. Maybe it's more than true. Because who wants the truth? The truth is a mundane reality, and you have already got as master. What you want is the distillation of interesting experience, and you might think, well, why is it interesting? Well, the answer is you don't know. That's the thing that's so cool. When you think about behavior, you tend to think about voluntary behavior, but motivation or style will. Distant habit are activated depending on the situation. Autonomic response. So, for example, when you when you're food deprived and you start to think about food and you start to organize your behavior towards food and to perceive the world, not where your body also prepares for food. And so it's useful to think about motivated style as macro personality. According to our article from Recognition Today title, the scientific truth behind fake it till you make it. Mental imagery and actual perception share common neural circuits, so they have different firing dynamics. This phenomenon is explained by Hess law, which states that neurons that wire together. In other words, if you do something in association with something else, the two things will get interlinked at a neural level. This principle highlights the brain's ability to strengthen neural connection through repetition and association. For example, if someone repeatedly visualizes themselves speaking confidently in public, their brain starts to reinforce the same neural pathways used in actual public speaking, potentially improving the real life performance. Even when you're just walking to where you want to go, if you are successfully walking there, your brain trusts what you're doing, the circuits that are activated while you are doing it, and if you what you are doing result in the result you desire, then the dopamine flush those little neurons that activate and make them grow and flourish. And so, as you practice something that's working, the circuit that is activated as you are practicing is about in dopamine, and that makes it stronger, and that feels good. It's growth. It's about a positive emotion, and so the positive emotion move you forward, but also encourage you to develop a habit of that practice. So one of the things I would like to with is no man can habit of pursuing the things that are good for you, because you build that into your environment. If you become addicted to something, you build a little more monster inside you. That's growth. Is there is after one goal. It's by everything else, not a good outcome. And, in order to withstand suffering, let's say your life has to some meaning. Okay, well, that's mean a bunch of things. Mean that, by the way, you come suffering is by making suffering into something meaningful, and I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean it technically. You made a mistake because you're suffering. You did something about it. You don't make that mistake again. In a study on expressive writing with 258 participants, researchers found that this encouraged to embrace discomfort, felt as an achievement, and normalized to remember corrected impressive journaling into their daily life, compared to those who were simply instructed into focusing on tasks. Perceiving negative burden as a messiah process is particularly motivating when positive expression of delay and discomfort is immediate. There's a life in suffering ideas. It's like, why learn something? Cause you're wrong. Who cares? This makes you suffer. Who you care? So even if you are now a little scheme in the world, a little action, passion, didn't go what you want if you are especially you will choose your version to chase and cry. And why that? Because you don't know what you're and you don't what you're doing. It's like time for some negative emotion. It's an indicator that you're wrong. And that's terrible in some sense because it almost always means that to learn requires pain. Now I don't believe that exactly because people who are curious, and to our being and curious and to learn new things very exciting. And so what it seems to be is that there's a rate of learning natural fast and that hurts you. That's why when you cry. But if you get the right just right, you're just opening enough novelty so that you can benefit participate without being overwhelmed by the expensive element of it. You can tell what is happening is one of the cost thing at the first time considered.